call this local planning agency meeting to order. Please rise and pledge the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Rita, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Commissioner White?
Yep.
Commissioner Orthwine?
Up in the morning.
Commissioner Lyons?
Here.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Here.
Mayor Morgan?
Here.
Also present are Town Manager Dunham, Assistant Town Attorney Nazaro, Police Chief Allen, and myself.
Mr. Nazaro, would you explain how this meeting is going to proceed?
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning, Vice Mayor and Commissioners. This meeting of the local planning agency was scheduled to create 3 historic districts in the town of Gulfstream in order to continue to allow the town to regulate the aesthetics of our single-family homes. However, the town was able to successfully advocate for an amendment to legislation that sought to prohibit the ability of local governments to regulate building design elements. This would have included external building color, the type and style of exterior cladding material, the style or material of roof structures or porches, the exterior non-structural architectural ornamentation, location of architectural styling of windows or doors, and location orientation of the garage, all of which are covered by our design manual. So the amendment that we were able to push through, working with the Florida League of Cities, reads, the dwelling is located within the jurisdiction of a local government that has a design review board or architectural review board. And I worked very closely personally to get that put in specific for Gulfstream, and it was put in the bill that did eventually pass both houses. After quite a bit of horse trading, the bill passed with our amendment on the last day of the session. It currently awaits the governor's signature, but since we have been carved out by the amendment, we will not be impacted whether he signs it or not. The local planning agency hearing had to be advertised prior to the end of the session based on Florida statute requirements for notice. So we are only holding this meeting to advise you that the staff has decided to pull this item from the LPA and Town Commission agenda due to the fact that there is no criteria that we could apply to a newly created historic district that would be different than what we would apply townwide using our award-winning design manual. So thank you for making Gulfstream a great place to live. And
significant credit goes to Mr. Nazaro for working to get our town carved out of that bill. Any public comment? Comment from the commission? If not, this meeting is adjourned. Let's move now. We're going to call the town commission meeting. Again, let's rise and pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Commissioner Lyons?
Here.
Commissioner White? Here. Commissioner Orthwine? Here. Vice Mayor Stanley?
Here.
Mayor Morgan?
Here.
And also present are Town Manager Dunham, Assistant Town Attorney Nazaro, Police Chief Allen, and myself.
Thank you very much. We've been presented with the minutes from our last meeting on April 9th. Are there any comments, changes, additions? If not, is there a motion to approve? Second. Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwine? Yes. Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Okay, we have some changes to the agenda. Obviously, with what just transpired at our previous meeting, we are going to remove item 10.2, which is ordinance 21/5, from consideration. Mr. Dunn?
Yes, Mayor, I have another addition to make. That would be listed under 8C3G. That would be the approval of a land clearing permit. And then under the manager's comments, I'm taking off number 3, the artificial grass. We'll have a discussion about that at a later meeting. then I'm adding, after gatehouses, extension of disaster removal contract for our second one-year extension. And that would be with tag grinding services. And then lastly, the approval of Justice Assistance Grant Program funds as number 6.
Very good. Anything else?
No.
Okay, let's move on. Our next meeting will be June 11th, 9 a.m. for anyone who wishes to attend. We are now honored to have with us Senator Maury Berman, who is going to give us a legislative update. And thank you so much for coming, Senator.
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners, and everyone who's attending. So I'm your Senator, State Senator Maury Berman, and we just finished our legislative session, ended 2 weeks ago today, exactly. So this is pretty much hot off the presses. And we have one constitutional responsibility while we're in Tallahassee, and that is it, and that is to pass a balanced budget. And I'm pleased to report that we met our responsibility, and not only did we meet it, but we met it with a very robust budget. When I first was elected to the legislature 11 years ago, we had about a $60 billion budget. This year we have a $101 billion budget. So we were able to, when we started this session, everyone thought with COVID we would really be in trouble and we'd be having to cut all sorts of programs, healthcare, social services, education. But because of the American Recovery Act, we got $10 billion. And so we did not have to cut very much at all. The budget passed unanimously in both chambers, which is unusual. Sometimes it doesn't pass unanimously, but we gave money for all different programs, including environmental, a lot of money for environmental. The largest part of our budget is always healthcare. This year we were able to fund the hospitals and help them out because they're handling a lot of the COVID problems. Education stayed pretty much the same levels, which was good that we didn't have to have any decreases. So overall, it was a really good budget, and we brought a lot of money back to Palm Beach County. And you'll see that as it goes on, different projects, and especially there's grant money for sea level rise and resiliency, as well as septic to sewer. So those are things that you should be looking into here in the town. I want to commend you for what you did on that one bill. So if there was a theme for this session, I would say it was preemption, unfortunately. I am a strong believer in home rule, and I believe that the government closest to the people knows what the people want. Unfortunately, Tallahassee doesn't feel that way. So I voted no on a lot of the preemption bills, and I'm going to go over a few of them so you'll know what was preempted. And that bill that you referenced was in your previous meeting, was particularly egregious in saying that you couldn't have any input in your design standards, and I'm really glad that you were able to get the exemption through. There's another particularly egregious bill that it's HB 403, it's home-based businesses. And I would urge all of you to get in touch with the governor and ask him to veto it. It passed by the slimmest of majorities, and I think it's right for vetoes. So what the bill says is that you can't regulate any home-based business any different than you would regulate any other commercial entity in your city. So you can't say if you're running something out of your garage that the hours have to be different because it's being run out of the garage as opposed to being run out of a business. You can't have different parking requirements. You can't have different noise requirements. So it's a really, it's almost as bad as the other bill about design elements, but I would strongly urge you to ask the governor to veto that bill. Other bills that could affect you, we passed a bill about impact fees. Now they can only increase 25% over 2 years and 50% over 4 years. Some other bills that might affect you, we passed a lot of bills regarding exemption of fuel retailers. You can't, basically, we'll have problems if you start to limit gas stations in your area, as well as say anything having to do with renewable energy. You can't say that you have a town policy, which is by 2030, you want to be carbon neutral. We have now preempted that issue to the state, unfortunately. The good news, we did not change the vacation rental law. So whatever requirements you have now that affect Airbnb in your community with noise and parking, all those are in effect. I mean, every year they threaten to take that over on the state level, but I'm happy to say that this year, again, we were successful in making sure that that did not happen. I personally had a really successful session this year. I passed 7 bills, which I'm really proud of, and brought back about $5 million personally just to Palm Beach County. There's 2 bills that I want to highlight for everybody here so that you'll know that they're coming up. One is we're calling it the purple alert. So just as we have the amber alert and the silver alert, this is another alert that will be out there. Amber alert only applies to children or people up to 20. Silver is over 60. This purple alert sort of fills the gap period between 20 and 60 for someone who goes missing who has a developmental disability or a cognitive problem. So somebody with autism, if they go missing, we'll have a procedure and we'll have it all set up right away. And then the other bill that I got through that was included in another bill, I want to just make sure that all the students in the community know. Because of COVID, we really had what they call the COVID slide for our students, and a lot of children, doing distance learning did not work for them. And so what the bill says is if you're a student in kindergarten through 5th grade, and you're a parent, if you feel that your child needs to repeat this school year, and only this school year, this is a 1-year deal, you have the absolute final say. You need to write a letter to the school. There'll be a procedure in place. I'm working with the superintendent now. It's a statewide program that I'm working with our local superintendent. And you have to show that there's an academic reason that your child has, not progressed where they should have progressed this year. And then you can have the final, regardless of whether the school says, no, I don't think you're right, you as the parent have the final say. So I want to get that word out so that parents know that it's available for them. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm so happy to represent you. This is my 3rd year representing the town of Gulfstream. And I appreciate all your input and what you did, especially in Tallahassee. That was really outstanding to make sure that the preemption did not hurt cities like Gulfstream and many others. So happy to answer any questions and be here with you this morning.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions? Questions from the public? It was a very thorough report. We really appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
And what you're doing there.
Thank you. And my office is at the Children's Service Council at 95 and Gateway. So please, if you have any state issues that you need help with, we're there to help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
All right, let's have Mr. Rosa from Comcast before we get to the general public. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you. Just want to bring everybody up to speed on where Comcast is with the aerial to underground relocate. We've started in the south section of the project at, I think it's, refresh my memory. Gulfview. We're starting there and we're starting to wreck out the cable coming north. We found a couple situations where we're trying to be very proactive on not having people out, because we have people running businesses out of their homes, trading stocks, teaching kids. So we're really proactive on making sure that we don't have anybody out for that period of time. So we've come across some situations where we've had to leave the cable up. We are working diligently to get it down on the ground, but we don't want to disrupt anybody, especially right now in school systems. And in the end of the school year, this being the second quarter of the year, a lot of finances, taxes and stuff like that. So my job is to make sure we keep everybody happy and everybody up and running, but also to not lose momentum on where we are right now. So we're about, correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, we're about 35% completed at the south end. Now, the north end up here, we just got approval. We're gonna start calling in locates. You're gonna start seeing marks on the road and marks on the streets. It's washable paint. It'll come off within a couple of days. And we're gonna start that hopefully in the next
Probably Wednesday or Thursday.
Wednesday or Thursday to start a couple of weeks. So you'll see that. And when it comes to the holidays and stuff like that, we'll back off a little bit and you won't see as much traffic there. But that's where we are. If anybody has any questions for Comcast, I'll be more than happy to answer.
I do.
Yes.
So when you say, Wednesday or Thursday, starting up here, are you talking about wrecking?
No, we're gonna be pulling new cable. All the final one up here near Little Club, that one has to go underground. So what we're doing is we've got approval from engineering, we've got a redesign, and we're redesigning all that and dropping it underground. Once it's dropped underground and we turn everything on, then what we'll do is we'll go back systematically, start at the end, and work our way over and then drop everything at the roadside. And that's the fiber optic also that's out here. So everything on A1A from Gulfstream all the way up to Little Club Road, about another 3 months, I would say. Another 3 months and we should pretty much have this wrapped up.
3 months.
I think it was like 5 or 6 months that you were in here and told us that you were almost done. In fact, you were well ahead.
Unfortunately,
which has completed its work.
Pardon me?
AT&T, which was far behind Comcast, has totally completed their work and removed their lines. Comcast has been dragging its feet ever since you told us you were about ready to finish. So now we're being told you're only 35% done at the south end of the town? This was 6 months ago.
That's just the wreck out. This is the wreck out. The fiber optic's already built and turned on. We've been waiting for all the residents to switch over. I mean, I could shut it all off and then we could just have the residents.
Now, I've been involved in meetings with Comcast about shutting off. Letters were sent, phone calls were made. We made the decision that everyone who had not yet contacted Comcast would get shut off. Comcast wouldn't tell us how many people would be involved and who they were so that we could go to them. But we understood that it was a very small number of people. The town wants to get this job finished. Now you're telling me there's still undergrounding to be done to the north end of the town?
That section up there wasn't part of the bill down here. Okay.
Well, I don't hear it as part of the bill.
I
It's part of your
understand
job.
that. Well, I'll try to
It's
get
not
you
gonna
better.
it's not gonna do anybody any good for you and me to get them.
Oh, no, I'm
But I expect that when you represent something to this town, that you're gonna follow through with it. So now you're representing, what, 3 more months to get this done?
That's to have everything totally wrecked out.
Well, that's what we're looking for.
I
You can't take the poles down until you finish your job.
I understand that.
Okay.
I understand that. And I've been working with Greg. I've got updates. I've got prints here. People are more than, I'm controlled by maintenance. Maintenance lets me know what I can drag out and what I can't.
I base it on what you tell us.
Okay.
You've come into this commission, you've told us things that we've reported to the town. I don't know how many letters I've sent to the town telling them Comcast has represented they will be done by X date. Well, that was months ago.
I didn't tell you it was gonna be good.
No, you
I
did.
understand.
You represented as to when this job would be finished, when you would be underground, and when you would start pulling the wires.
And I apologize for that. There were things that we found. I found the fiber optic that goes to the police station and nobody has a record of. That I can't have that down, because if that's down, then I've got a problem with the chief. So I'm tracking that. I'm tracking problems over here that nobody's got a record of.
Okay.
So I understand your frustration, but I'm frustrated because I'm trying to fix stuff that nobody has a record of. And I have to try to figure out how I'm going to keep that on and keep you happy, keep them happy, and keep everybody else happy. It's a hard job, and I apologize if I misled anybody. I'm trying to do my best job I can. We've done a wonderful job. I haven't had any complaints from any of the homeowners. I've had some complaints where people won't let us on the property. I'm not.
Well, let's bury the hatchet and let's move forward from here.
That's
fine. All right, thank you, Steve.
Mayor?
Yes.
Can I just make 2 comments? So approximately 3 to 4 weeks ago, I think perhaps your supervisor, Janine, said to me through, what's the other lady's name? She's the middle person between towns and cities that, you know, that we communicate with, said that the Comcast had completed all the wrecking. I mean,
And you and I have talked about this. I'm boots on the ground. I'll tell you exactly what's going
Yeah, and
on.
I understand that,
Because
and,
it's just when somebody states that something's completed and not checked out, and that's not anything to do with the city, that's to do with Comcast. There's a lack of communication between point A and point B, because Tim and I have been working diligently on this job. We've been in touch with you constantly.
I know, I've been able to get the best information from Tim and your other person that works for you. But I'm getting messages from, I guess, the office.
And I apologize for that, because this is the first I'm hearing of you being upset. It's the first I'm hearing of it. And I understand that you guys are being notified that people, it's above my pay grade. I'm the guy that's just on the boots on the ground, just getting stuff done.
But this is the first time we've heard from the boots on the ground that it's gonna take 3 months. I mean, you need to tell that to the people in the office.
Oh, I will.
They're giving me totally different information. And so I've kind of given up on communicating with them and communicating with Tim and his associates. But the other thing that they said to me, this letter that went out in March, by the end of March, if the residents had not contacted them, I said, is that going to slow down your wrecking? And I was told, absolutely no, that we will, once, you know, March 30th or 31st, whatever it is, was done, then the wrecking would start, that would not slow down the wrecking. And they told me that on the phone.
Oh, I apologize for that.
So,
It's just, if I can get it done any quicker, I'd be more than happy to. Yes, sir.
So what's regard to a particular resident, who is not, hooked up? Are you gonna, at what point are you gonna say, too bad?
I will get with my manager this afternoon or first thing Monday morning when I have my meeting and say, we're just gonna shut them off.
well, I think what's happening is the people that did not, I don't know, I think I was told there were 25 or 30 people that had not responded to the phone calls, the messages, and I think knocks on the door. And I think what's happening is, instead of then saying that's it, and then, you know, continuing with wrecking out the old service, they're ignoring that. I mean, the people that have not responded, I think they're continuing to try to reach those people, which is slowing up the rest of it.
Correct, and my marching orders are, I wait for maintenance to tell me what sections I can take down and what sections I can't. There's a gentleman who's in charge of that. I have no control over that. Tim and I have been working hand in hand with him. He tells us what street's done. We go in there and we complete that street. It's wrecked out. I have a print here. You're more than welcome to look at it, or what we have wrecked out, which is 2/3 of what's down the street.
Okay.
Well, your marching orders now, if no one gets back to you on a particular property, shut them down, right? We gotta get this job done.
Not a
I
problem.
mean, I've got FP&L that is, I mean, they're making plans to, you know, to remove poles now, and to put the new street lights out here, take the old poles out. I mean, all they're waiting on is, Druin over at DOT to give them the okay. So, anyway, the left hand just doesn't seem to know what the right hand is doing, because I'm getting so many mixed messages, and it's very frustrating.
Can we set up a protocol where you meet, have a scheduled meeting, how are we doing against the plan? How are we doing, every week, till this is done?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was shocked when I heard that we had undergrounding in the north. I thought we were totally done. I mean, am I confused?
No, you're not confused. You're not confused.
And that's what I've been telling our residents. As the mayor.
All the fiber, all right, let me just back up. All the fiber is in place. All the fiber's in place and all the fiber's been turned on. All those people who have been about 100 plus people have been already moved to the fiber. There's a handful of them that haven't been moved. And there's a couple of them that are off of this one node. There's a backbone that nobody realized it was there. until we went and shut it off. When we shut it off, it caused a problem. So maintenance is only telling me what I can shut off and what I can wreck out. I am only being driven by what maintenance is telling me.
Okay.
And the thing is we don't want to upset customers, especially right now with tax season. I've got stuff I can't do, not here in this place, but there's other sections of the town and county I can't do because of the tax season. I don't know why I can't cut something over.
But now there's nothing
I understand it.
nothing to delay you. No response, shut them off.
Okay.
Move on with this project.
Okay,
I'll let this be done promptly.
I'll let myself.
Shorten your 3-month period.
Yeah, I was gonna say, can't you get it done any quicker than 3 months?
It seems, if everything's underground, why is it taking 3 months?
It's not underground. That's what I'm saying. It's not underground. I've had to prove all this pipe that was put in third party before us. I had to prove all that pipe. That took us what, 3 weeks, Tim? 3 weeks to prove all that pipe that was put in by a third contractor. If we would have done it ourselves, we'd have been done a long time ago. But we've had.
I've been in forever.
And it's screwed up for us. And you know how many times we've had to fix it? We've had to fix everything from Gulfview Road all the way up to Little Club. We've had to fix almost, well, pipe was damaged. Pipe was damaged, coupling's not put together.
All the engineering was done in connection with AT&T, Comcast, FP&L, and independent engineers.
Tim, how many pipes?
Did a problem should have been picked up early on. But whatever.
Well,
We're not accomplishing anything by arguing here. I think you've got the gist of.
Oh, I got the gist.
You got it.
I got it.
Okay.
Now
We'll get this job done.
Have a nice day.
Thank you, Steve. All right, any other comments from the public? If not, let's move on to the public hearing. We have a number of applications. Anyone who will be speaking today, please rise and take an oath.
Just raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
And are there any ex parte communications among the commission members for any of these applications?
Just drive by the first application, the Hayes application, we're report time 2 weeks, but no other ex parte communication.
Okay,
Well, may I have the same comment on my part?
okay, very good. Let's move on then to Mr. Wietzma and 1060 North Ocean Boulevard.
My name is Bill Wietzma. I am the agent and architect for Joanne Hayes, the owner of the property we're discussing. The Hayes bought this property a while ago as a spillover for guests when they come. And they decided to sell the house that they live in now on Gulfstream Road and renovate this project to downsize. So they hired me to design a new cottage, renovate the cottage that's there. And upon, investigation into the structure, we have discovered that there's water infiltration on the west side because the property is 1.5 feet lower than the neighboring property, both neighboring properties. And so we're looking at, before they do a major renovation to the project, we applied to you for a variance to demolish the building that's there and raise the grade and build a building on the exact same footprint with a new facade and new design. The impact will be exactly the same as it is now, as far as the impact on the lot. However, we are accomplishing getting rid of what we call a Pizza Hut house and restoring it with a new Bermuda-style cottage that fits more in within the rules and desires of the town of Gulfstream. If this house had been built presently anyway, the rules of your code say that the elevation should have been at the minimum, the minimum average between the two neighboring properties. Now it's 1.5 feet lower. So there is some water issues. Do you have the photograph? You have the photograph.
I got it.
Yeah. So we're requesting that we're given permission to build a new cottage on this property with the same exact footprint.
Yeah, you just, it needs to be elevated, you're not seeking any additional
Nothing additional, nothing.
incursion into setbacks. But it would violate the code as currently written.
Right, you really can't build anything on that property that's so narrow.
But theoretically, I guess you could take the house, gut it, and make the improvements. I'm not recommending it, but it does, you know, if we're gonna end up in the same place with a new house, which is a better way of doing it, why not do that?
Right, the only problem with gutting it and re-fixing it up is you still have the situation with the water, which they don't wanna take a chance at it, they're gonna invest a lot of money in this.
Any other questions by the commission?
No, it looks
Staff, looks good, staff recommends it?
Yes.
Mayor, I think it also meets, the criteria of the variance.
Yeah, we need to go through that.
Okay.
I glanced at it, looked like 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, were met. Arguably 3 and 6 would be met.
Right, for the variance approval, obviously, can we just refer to them by number instead of reading all 8 items into the record?
Yes.
You would just need to recommend approval, you wouldn't need to recommend a specific criteria. Only if you were recommending denial, you would need to specifically indicate which criteria you believe was not met.
Any other comments on the variance?
No?
I'll make the motion. I'll make a motion to approve the variance for the construction of a new dwelling using the same footprint and setbacks as the existing building, which are the same setbacks as the existing neighboring structures. The commission finding that all the elements 1 through 8 are in compliance with approval of the variance.
Second?
Second?
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Looks like there's a second motion being requested. I don't know if it's covered under your first motion or not.
I think there's a variance requesting the 8-foot 1 variance.
Recommend approval now for the construction of the 26 and 47. Does that need to be?
That Mr. Stanley indicated that the variance was covered by that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bill.
It's a nice house.
Thank you.
Yeah, it'll be a nice improvement. All right, let's move on then to, Benjamin property, which is 1122 North Ocean Boulevard.
Are we
Yeah, that's the demolition.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at. I thought we were supposed to be doing a little more than just approving
I
the
think we
variance.
have to do the demolition.
Because they want to demolish.
They're not coming back. He wants the variance and he wants his application to approve the bill, right?
Right.
Okay, we have
We
3 more
approve
motions.
demolition and the
Yeah.
construction. Let's just back up a second and reopen
Okay,
the application.
All right, so we're reopening the application 21-12 for 1060 North Ocean. Those of you at the podium can stand by. These are the approvals as to the actual project. The first motion is to approve a demolition permit to remove the structures on the property to prepare for new construction.
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yeah.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
Second motion is obviously the variance, which we've already approved previously a few minutes ago. And the third is obviously the development application, which is the approval of level 3 architectural site plan review to permit the construction of a 2,647 square foot Gulfstream Bermuda single-story dwelling, finished floor area elevation of which will be increased to 9.53 NABD, an increase of 1.5 feet to match that of the neighboring dwellings and the attached garage.
Second.
Ms. Taylor? Yes.
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes, thank you.
Bill, you're done.
Sorry.
We're done.
All right,
I learned a long time ago, you can't live without a cable guy, you can't live with him.
oh my gosh, that's true.
So, I represent the Benjamin family, and Stephen and Helen Benjamin, they're the owners of the property at 1200 North Ocean Boulevard. It's known as Hidden Harbor, and the house itself is known as Lemon Hill. And, you know, it's had a history, and it's on a very large piece of property, and there are restrictions where there can only be a single-family home built on that site. It can't be subdivided. There's a declaration restriction. So there's very little development that can occur on the site. However, there are certain rights, inherent rights that this property owner has, and one is to enhance its waterfront. And that's what we're proposing today. We went before the planning board after 3 meetings. We went through a lot of different issues. We resolved all the issues and got unanimous approval from the architectural review and planning board, and we really appreciate that. So I have a presentation here. I think you got a copy of it. I'd like to run through it if I may. I want to introduce everybody that's on the team. We have William Stoddard, our civil engineer, present. We have Chris Cavizas, our landscape architect. We have Arthur Tiedelman, who's our marine contractor. We have John Gudick, who's our property manager and overall guy that's helped us get through this project. And we really appreciate our team. And I'm going to try to run through this. And if you have any questions after we get through the presentation, everybody's here to answer your questions. I think Mr. Tiedelman will make a presentation on how the actual seawall system will work after I'm done, because it's a system that's now being introduced in many areas, and it's probably the most efficient and safest way of construction now, seawalls. And I think it'd be something educational for this commission. So he's here to explain that to you. So if we go through the project, let me give you a quick overview of the project. So right now, this is the present condition. The canal comes up to our property. On the top of there is Lemon Hill. As you can see, it's on a number of acres. We're expanding the waterfront. We're adding a few docks on our property as well as on the Smith's property. We're enhancing the seawalls on Mr. Barton's property, our property, and their property. This is an enlargement of the waterfront expansion area. And we're also going to be enhancing the west entrance to our site around the service area. And at the end of the day, there'll be a expansive landscaping so nobody can look into our site as requested by our neighbors, and we're happy to do that. So that's an overview. Let's talk about existing conditions. When we purchased the property, we knew there were problems with the seawall. They only got worse. We have reinforced them, keep it in place so there'll be no injury to the water or to adjoining property owners. And as part of this process, we looked into it, we realized we can enhance our seawall system. We looked into the TRULINE hybrid system, which will be explained later if you have any questions about it. Essentially, it's an aluminum prefab system, which is put into the ground, and then the rebar and concrete is poured in. The details, there's substantial engineering drawings, but we don't need to go through that right now. Let's talk about the existing conditions of the site. As you can see, there's an expansive yard down to the water. You walk down to the water to the seawall. That is the area in which the site plan will be implemented. When we remove the land, that would be an area that would absorb water. We are going to keep all water runoff on the site, even though that's not required. Stormwater control is not required for residential properties. We felt that it would be the best practice would be to keep the water on the site. So we're going to keep the water on the site by appropriately contouring the land. This is a more architectural presentation of the waterfront expansion. And it's a place in the neighborhood. We have the Bartons, the Smiths, and the Benjamins, all who have entered into an agreement to protect everybody's rights and responsibilities, and everybody's happy. We have the quick west elevations. This is a rendering of the west elevation. As you can see, there are 2 retaining walls because of the contour of the hill. You see the TRULINE seawall on the bottom, the dock, the steps, the retaining wall, shrubbery, extra shrubbery, and then we're planting multiple trees on the site. We'll go into that in a little bit more detail. This is both the classic, streamlined, beautiful 1982 a classic yacht that's going to be parked on the site by Mr. Benjamin. I think everybody knows about Mr. Benjamin. You know, he was a Olympian sailor. He's not here today. He has responsibility. He coaches national teams in sailing. He's up in Providence, Rhode Island right now, sailing and teaching and coaching. He wanted to be here, but he has a race today. Here's another rendering of the west elevation done by Mr. Stoddard, further illustrating the west elevation, the retaining walls, the dock. We're going to be putting a boat lift, a small boat lift on the north side. It's called a zero profile boat lift. It has one little ribbing on the edge, and it drops down, raises up. It's as small a boat lift as you could put on the site. Let's look at the north elevations. This is I talked about the landscaping on the northwest corner around the service yard. On the left side is the way it is now. On the right side will be after it's planted at the end of the project. Once again, before, after. So a lot of issues are, how does this project impact the neighborhood? So we investigated where could the trucks come in and minimize impact along Hidden View Drive. And if you look at it, we looked at the dump truck, which will be running 6-8 times a day down and then we have also the LOWBOY excavator, which is the only truly large piece of equipment that's going to come on the site to start the excavation, and when it's done, it'll be pulled away. So that's the only large piece of equipment. Our goal is to keep it on the site and to enter through the front entryway. It's going to tear up our yard. It's going to tear up our formal plaza in the front of our house. But in order to keep the trucks off the road, we're going to put it through our front entrance and move it through our property, circle it in, and come out. So we did the auto turn analysis. The dump trucks can come in that way, and we'll be able to keep it on site. So a little bit better explanation of the construction path, because this was a concern of neighbors. The red line shows where the dump trucks will come in and out. If we can't get the LOWBOY, we can dump it right at the entryway and then leave. If we do, we're going to have a trip down the road and come back. A little bit later, I'll explain how we made certain that the truck will be able to get through without impacting the branches and trees. We actually measure them and have assurances from the contractor that he will assure that he will measure and make certain that the trucks can get through without damaging any of the trees. Let's talk about construction site plan. We've already talked about the path of the dump trucks and other trucks in. We also have a site where we're going to put the vehicles of the construction workers on site. We are also, and if you look at the orange and red trim along the waterway, we're going to be putting in silt fences along those red trimmed areas, and we're going to also be putting up privacy fences wherever those blue lines are. So we're trying to minimize impact, visual as well as physical impact on the neighborhood as we're going through the construction process. So we have construction, pollution control includes privacy fence, the silt fences. We're going to be performing dust management, which probably will not be a significant problem because it's like limestone. It comes out, of course, it's wet, and when it's pulled up, I think I lost our signal.
If you can't get it, that's fine. We have the hard copies here.
I know, I was thinking.
You can't blame it on them.
Yeah. We're taking that at the end of the meeting.
Okay, we can run through it. We're on, page, give me a moment, and I'll tell you what page we're on, and it's
48, I think it was. 48, I believe, is under dust management.
Looks like you studied these plans. And the last thing we have is the sediment control, racks, which will prevent the mud from being dragged onto the streets. We have landscape plans. We're gonna be adding 21 trees and the bushes, in addition to bushes and other shrubbery that we're putting on the north side. Unfortunately, there are 3 specimen trees on the site. Okay, great.
Yes.
Why is it not rolling now? Thank you. To roll it, please. Okay, I will roll it. Okay, thank you. So we have landscaping, this is the old landscaping, this is the new landscaping with all the additional trees and shrubbery. If you have any questions, Chris Cavizas is here to answer your questions about it. We had a tree assessment from an arborist to evaluate the 3 large specimen trees. They're all in very poor condition. Here's some pictures of some of the trees.
Where are those trees located?
They were in the area where it's going to be excavated. So we had the tree survey, and we went through that, in fine detail with your department and with the arborist, make certain we had a complete accounting. We have already applied to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection to get a permit. We've gotten preliminary review. It's going through final review right now. At first, we were hoping we would be able to avoid the Army Corps of Engineers. Everybody likes to avoid the Army Corps of Engineers. But apparently, we're gonna have to do some review with them, but it's gonna be, looks like it's gonna be minimal. At least that's what our civil engineers are hoping. We are making certain also that the trucks will get through. You know, the garbage trucks get through, the fire trucks can get through. Our trucks will be able to get through. This is a UPS truck that gets through. But we had John actually walk through the neighborhood with a 14-foot pole to measure the height, just to make certain. And there is only one place where it dropped below 13 feet, 12.5 feet is the clearance under the bridges. So we know we're safe and we'll be able to get everything through. That's the completion of our presentation. Mr. Tiedemann is here to answer questions. Why don't you give a quick rundown about the TRULINE seawall system so everybody can understand what we're doing there.
So we're moving away, just in general, just moving away from your traditional concrete style seawall, where there's king piles and precast concrete slabs, and moving towards the TRULINE. I think that was, can you go back to the, there was like 10 or 12? Sure.
I'm going to roll.
Yes.
I didn't realize how long a presentation that was. There we go.
So this section is your TRULINE panel. Each panel subsequently goes into the next panel and creates a cell, which we then evacuate the solids out, put in structural steel, and then fill it with cement. This allows us to get at least 50% penetration into the earth, which is different than your traditional style seawalls, whereas you would get good penetration with your king piles and batter piles, but the precast panels usually are only dug in a couple feet into the earth. Whereas if you had from the mud line to the top of the cap 8 feet, we would use a 16-foot panel and get 50% penetration. That would allow the earth to not be able to come up underneath, and then each panel connected to one another and then cast in place creates a impenetrable wall, whereas your traditional concrete wall has gaps and seams that rely on filter fabric, which goes to the wayside over time and all, generally fails over time within 20 to 30 years. This is a 75-year rated system. Another thing that we're doing special in this project, and we're looking to implement so the concrete cap, we're going to use basalt rebar, which is a non-ferrous rebar. So it's actually made from basalt. So it's a rock. And so don't have any rusting issues. That is the last weak point on the wall. So this is the top of the line seawall. We're going to use a galvanized helical anchor that will, keep the wall from falling forward. And then we use little 2.5-inch ABS jet filter weep holes to reduce the hydrostatic pressure behind the wall. So you get good penetration into the earth. Up here you have your helical from keeping it rolling forward instead of having more concrete in the water like your traditional batter pile. And it's a very clean, well-designed, well-thought-out system that is becoming the future of seawalls.
So how far below the mudline will that go?
So in this particular project, it's very rocky. So the current existing grade is here. We're going to go down, we're digging down approximately 7-8 foot in the basin. And because it's rock, what we're going to use, another great attribute of this product is we can come in and this structural steel, so here we have rock. Okay. We can all imagine.
That's why we're getting into it.
Yeah, that's why we're replacing.
Anyways, you can penetrate the rock with the steel and get your underpinning capabilities. You don't need to get 50% penetration.
That was my question.
Yeah.
How deep it goes, there's the short squirrel rock needs to either be drilled out.
So in this case, we're actually just digging a small trench, and we're going to anchor the steel in, and we're also going to fill the bottom of that trench in with grout. So it's not going to kick out ever.
How is that accomplished? What equipment is used to get through
So
the rock?
the way we're going to dig this, we're going to come in, we're going to level the work area and bring in our big excavator, and we're actually going to dig a trench around the perimeter where the seawall is going to go, and we're going to install the panels. And once the panels are shored up, we'll come in, install the structural piece of rebar into the rock, drive it in, get about 18 inches of penetration, and then we'll come in and fill just the bottom 30 inches of that overdug trench, and then that will keep the bottom pinned in place, and then we're going to excavate the basin after that, and that will all be exposed.
So we're going down a little under 2 feet into the rock.
In this specific project, because of the soil, yes.
Okay.
In a lot of other projects where it's sand or traditional soil, we would get 50% penetration from the mud line. So here's your mud line. So we're still going to have good penetration into the earth, but this is just an additional precaution.
As we're scraping out about 18 inches of rock, then the basalt pilings, how are they?
We use a large air hammer to drive those pieces of steel, and there's one in each piece of each cell, inch and an eighth.
Okay.
Number 11.
Just curious about the reverberating effect on the neighbors.
Which is great, because this product allows us to use much smaller hammers, much smaller equipment. I'm not using a 5,000-pound drop hammer hitting concrete. It's far less noisy. It is noisy, it's construction, but it is far less impactful on the environment, on the neighbors, something that we've found that we like as a contractor, where we're not shaking people's wedding pictures off their their walls. So that's another reason we're moving towards this product.
Good, thank
Any other questions?
So the point, just so I understand, it's 1 1/4, so the actual driving pile is 1
For this
1/4.
specific project.
Yeah, so the pressure is minimized because it's only that.
Yeah, you're just driving one pot, and you're only going a couple inches in it.
It's not like a regular foundation.
You're not taking a 12 by 12 concrete square and hammer it into the ground. You're taking a little 1 1/4 piece, and it's just a vibro hammer.
And you're also taking advantage of the fact that Tulane limestone and
Yes.
using the grout to penetrate into the Tulane limestone to create a structural foundation.
Yeah.
Something that they're doing now in construction. Use an auger piling, you cut it out, then you put in your grout. You actually make the Tulane limestone into part of your support structure, which is now being used all over South Florida. So the grout literally penetrates into the light limestone and actually becomes part of the foundation. And this is something that was developed in the last 20 years. I was general counsel for Goffman Consulting Engineers, and we built about 35 high-rises utilizing that system. And this is now utilizing that very same system in your seawalls, which is making it extraordinarily sound.
It's an investment, if you look at it as an investment, something that you're gonna do one time versus your typical concrete seawall is designed to have a 50-year shelf life, but a lot of them are lasting. I mean, we're replacing walls that are 20 to 30 years old on average.
Mark, if it doesn't last for 75 years, I'm gonna go after you.
No problem. I'll see you guys then. No, but part of my goal really is, I'm a young guy building a great business here. I want to be able to ride around later on in life and look at walls that I built, and they still look
Well,
like.
thank you, that's a very thorough explanation, appreciate that very much.
Any questions for my landscape architect or my engineer?
First, then we'll ask the public.
Can you all just hit again so you've got the boat sitting at the end of the new carved out basin, and, you're adding the additional screen. Obviously, different boats have different heights. Can you just, for the record, kind of go over that again, maybe bring the landscape architect up quickly?
Okay, I'm once again having a little trouble with this. Okay, I got it. So you'd like to see the,
Yeah, so you've got the street coming in from the street on the north, and then obviously you've got, the adjacent neighbors which have agreed to the project, we get that. And then,
this is the north,
yeah, I mean, we get the idea that the LOWBOYs can't knock the trees down, you've measured that, but this is just as far as the aesthetics of the screening and the additional trees. Again, I know you covered it quickly on the first one.
okay, the trees, we'll of course go over the trees, and then we'll go back to the actual design of the, let's go down to the trees, the landscape plans, and Mr. Cavizos is here if you have a question. Would you like to, Mr. Cavizos? I'm here. Why don't you come up here and explain the additional trees and shrubbery that we're installing?
Hello all. What was the question about the height of the boat?
So you've got basically two different things going on here in the landscape plan. So you've got you got some additional trees and shrubs, obviously, on the west boundary line there, which is their house there. And then you've got, obviously, the on-site landscaping, which, is providing some screening, the Smith property to the, I have all this memorized, let me go with that. You've got the Smith property where you've got some trees going in there, and then obviously you've got the access road, which I think has caused some concern when everyone's driving to their houses, you're adding the 30 trees. Can you just go over with the height of the boat, that's from the Smith property, and then from the neighbors, and then from the road, the planting height of those trees, and just briefly go over the specimens? Because that seems to be when we have a project, although this isn't a replat or new development, but anytime we have a major impact on a site, it seems to be the number one issue we have is, which you've addressed. I just want you to go over it reasonably quickly with the planting heights and the specimens for the new trees.
Mm-hmm.
We're not looking at this for 30 hours, and you all are.
Sure.
Go ahead and just run through it.
Sure. And the renderings, the elevations are actually the best way to see the heights, but I'll go over it with the plan. The northwest side is a very dense buffer that's matching the existing condition of the vegetation going down Hidden Harbor. We're planting pigeon plum trees, Florida thatch palms, buttonwood trees, all natives. That will be a tall tree between 10 and 15 feet of height. Then we have large shrubs filling in the gaps between 3 feet and 6 feet, which will be wild coffee and other shrubs that are existing to match the aesthetic. And then a ground cover, just full density, full screening. As we get to the expansion area, there are 2 retaining walls. We are planting those with some native ground covers, some flowering accents, a few palms just to frame views, nothing to obstruct too much of the waterfront views from the house. And then on the southern border with the Smith residence, we're adding a clusia hedge with some gumbo limbos and sable palms and royals, exactly. And that is the extent of the landscape plan.
The other thing on that northern side, on the back side of it, on the south side of the northern border between that lines Hidden Harbor, we're actually planting a clusia hedge on the back side of that as well.
Just extra screening.
Extra density to block out everything so we won't be able to see in.
And then the boat heights, I know that the bigger boat is 64 foot long, and it's a low boat. It does not go very high. I'm not sure of the actual height. And then the secondary boat, I believe, is a very small boat, maybe 24 feet or
29 feet
29 feet.
or less.
And you should not be able to see that from the street at all with all the vegetation going in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the commission?
Mayor, I just want to make a comment. I took the opportunity to review the prior ARPB meetings, and it was a good dialogue between the applicant and the various homeowners. And I really do think that the applicant has worked hard to be responsive. I think the towns coordinated those discussions well. As I understand, the town is also undertaking a survey in response to a request by a neighbor, so, on the preserved property. So I think
That survey has been completed,
Oh, okay.
verifies the correlation of the property lines.
so I think at this point, it's been well vetted, and solutions have been provided to address concerns, and from my perspective, I think it's a nice change.
Okay, very good. Mr. Dunn?
Just 2 quick comments. I just wanted to, now that we're getting to the motions. The landscape plan was approved, that's a level 2, so that one was approved at the ARPB meeting. And then you'll notice in this motion down here, you actually have two approvals in the same motion. That would be the demolition permit and the level 3 architectural site plan. So that's all in one motion.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Ms. Kraft?
I just have a question about noise with the engines up from the boat. Is that a 64-foot boat and a 30-foot boat charging up and just seems?
Well, the 64-foot boat is a classic boat. The startup, I've actually personally been in there at Monroe in the boat. It starts up, and you hear a little boom, boom, and it drives. I mean, they have a full-time captain working on the boat, present at all times, so there's no problem with that. The other one is a outboard. They'll probably either have a Yamaha or usually use the Yamaha for its tender boats. So that's also a quiet boat. You're not going to hear anything when it starts up. It's going to be as quiet as a marine boat can be.
The outboard is a 4-stroke?
I'm not sure if it's a 4-stroke. The 4-strokes are now being banned, so we're now going back to 2-strokes, unfortunately.
Really?
Yeah. It's banning it. It's the regulatory agencies have determined that the 4-stroke have some problems with oil leakage in the area, so now there's an EPA.
I like mixing oil and gas on a 2-stroke.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay.
That's what's happening now, but I don't know, all I know is that Mr. Benjamin the Benjamins are very environmentally oriented. They're sailors, they're in the water all the time, they love the water. I'm absolutely certain they're gonna do best practices in whatever they do. They only do things the right way. To take a 1985 boat and completely refurbish it, restore it. A boat of that scale and classic, and make that effort shows the type of person he is, of caring for keeping what's there. To buy Lemon Hill with all its restrictions, he's obviously into that historic designation. So this is a man who's part of the neighborhood, and he made every effort. In fact, we entered into written agreements with all our neighbors that are adjacent to it, going through every one of these environmental issues. And we were happy to meet with people. We were a little stunned when we saw that opposition at the very beginning, but we worked through it with everybody to solve the problems. This is a matter of rights, but we didn't press that point that this is a project of matter of right. We felt that everybody should have a say and we should have communication with them. And we feel that we're open. If there's any issues, we have an agreement from Mr. Tiedelman, the marine contractor who spoke earlier today, and he's actually entered into agreements where he will be working with the neighbors continuously. If there are problems, if there's noise, he's gonna get a phone call from us, and we'll probably give his phone number to any of the neighbors. So if we have issues, they can call him directly rather than going through.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that perhaps you do that, leave contact information for the residents with those contractors who will be most involved.
Right. Mr. Tiedemann will be on the site, I think, or his people will be, supervisor will be on the site nearly continuously. He's already been hired by other neighbors to start working on their seawalls, so apparently people are very happy with what he does, and people have checked him out and vetted him in the neighborhood in South Florida, and apparently he has product. And Mr. Benjamin, who's in the world of water and been involved in the world of water for years, he selected him of all the other, considering all the other marine engineers out there and marine contractors. So I feel very confident that we're going to have a beautiful project with a beautiful outcome, and it's going to be an example of what the rest of the Gulf Stream can do as they have to restore their seawalls.
Satisfactory, copy?
Yes.
Very good. Any other comments from the public? If not, is there a motion?
So we just have a singular motion here. So it's a motion to approve a demolition permit and a level 3 architectural site plan based on a finding that the construction of a new bulkhead landward of the existing bulkhead, the construction of 2 docks and a boat lift, and the construction of new site walls to retain existing grades to meet the minimum intended design manual and the applicable reuse standards. Note that this application seeks to increase the merged land for each property, resulting in a remodeled water footprint and use canal access for 1122 North Ocean Boulevard.
Second.
Ms. Baylor?
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thorough and much appreciated. Let's move on to Mr. Glickstein and Iron Development. I think Mr. Corsheen's leading the way.
That's the kind of see what we did. What's the last? Not a year. What's the last? I don't care. It's a long time.
Good morning, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. My name is John Metzger. I'm here as the attorney for Ironwood Development, the applicant for the proposed Blue Water Cove project. First of all, Mr. Glickstein regrettably could not be here today. His daughter's graduating college, and being the good father that he is, he will be with her this morning. But as the town has been advised, I've been involved with the project since inception, and I have full authority to speak on behalf of the applicant here this morning. Next, I'd like to introduce the design professionals you may recall from the previous meeting. Our planner, Mike Covelli, will present the agenda items related to the comp plan amendment and rezoning applications, as well as the concurrency certification. Our architects, Rusty Coopy and Dave Baki, will present the agenda items relating to the text amendment and the site plan application. Our civil engineer, Joe Pike, is here to answer any engineering questions you may have related to the applications, and I'm available to answer any questions regarding the developer's agreement. As this commission is already familiar with the project's general attributes, I won't repeat everything that was presented at the previous meeting, except to reiterate our view that the proposed development represents a complementary addition to the town and the Place au Soleil subdivision specifically. By adding the new infrastructure and 14 single-family homes, the town's tax base will increase, while also increasing property values in the Place au Soleil development, all without adding any additional material expense to the town. Further, the property's reorientation serves to move the signed property to the far north boundary of the town, and thereby creating a green space buffer between Gulfstream and the neighboring municipalities. While I remain available to answer any questions, I'll turn over the presentation to Mike Cavelli. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
See how many people I take out before we got started.
All right.
Sorry about that.
Good morning. My name is Mike Cavelli. We did a very extensive presentation at the last hearing, and your backup package, the information we submitted and the information that was done by staff has been very extensive. So I don't know that how much of this you want to go back through again. Just very briefly, the area, the long area that you see in this block is the actual subdivision that will be created, and that will be zoned single family. There was a piece here that's swapped with fine. This is the fine piece that will result in the northern part of it. This piece becomes public facility, and this becomes single family. I will tell you that with regards to the project, there's a mandate that this has to go through state review and other agencies. This application has been sent to 13 outside agencies and municipalities. We received no objections from anyone, and actually a lot elected not to comment. So we have not had any issue with this application from any of those multiple agencies. And with regards to concurrency, we have met the tests in terms of capacities and levels of service being available for this, so there is no issue with concurrency, as well as we received approval of traffic from Palm Beach County. So if you have any specific questions, I'd be happy to.
Any questions from the commission?
I have two quick questions. One, has there been any material change, anything since
No.
you left? In Trey, I'm trying to recall, wasn't there some state approval that we were waiting?
That's right. So there was a mandatory state review of our comp plan change, and that's why it wasn't held concurrently in the very next month. That was, I think, an expedited state review process. That's what he was referring to as far as the other agencies having the opportunity to apply on the project, which they had.
So they approved, okay, thank you.
I have a letter if you'd like to look at it. I believe this is in the back.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Anyone else making a presentation on this? Rusty?
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, Bristol Coopy for the record, project architect. I'm here to answer any questions. Nothing's changed materially or to the site plan. It's still the same size, 14 lots. And for the text amendment, we're still requesting that the lots 1 through 6 and 9 through 14 are allowed a 10-foot rear setback to the pool, since it's abutting the land and the driveway for the adjoining properties. Other than that, everything.
Very good. I think we've gone over this. Any questions from the commission? Thank you, Mr. Coopy. Mr. Biker?
Good morning. morning. I'm Dave Bodker. The landscape plan remains the same as what we went over last time. I don't know how much in detail you want to go through that.
Any questions on the landscaping plan by the commission? If not, thank you very much.
I do have something to add to that. Can't get rid of me that quickly. As part of this application, we are requesting approval for land clearing. And this site was very heavily overgrown with nuisance species such as Brazilian pepper, Australian pine, chapelera, etc. And it was necessary to clear and remove these species prior to doing a tree survey because it was so dense. The town of Gulfstream allowed us to remove the nuisance species, and a tree survey was provided for the front area of the site. And that's part of your L2 package. A tree survey for the remaining part of the site, which is from here back, will be provided. But I have done an inventory of the existing plants out there, and the approximate disposition of the existing trees is as follows. 6 pine trees we will attempt to save. 11 pine trees will need to be removed. 57 sable palms remain or be relocated. 7 ficus species will be removed or relocated. 2 oaks will be relocated. 1 triple trunk foxtail palm will be relocated. 1 gumbo limbo will be relocated. 2 royal palms will be relocated. And 1 live oak will be relocated. The shoreline vegetation along the intercoastal is primarily nuisance species as well, including mayho, Australian pine, Brazilian pepper, and tropical almond, and these will be removed as well. Just so you know, we are putting back on the site 62 live oaks, 76 green buttonwoods, 1 gumbo limbo, 37 vera woods, 4 Sylvester date palms, 149 areca palms, 43 fishtail palms, and 4 royal palms. So any questions regarding the clearing?
Any questions? Thank you again, Mr. Buckner.
Thank you.
Any questions from Mr. Pike, engineering analysis? Anyone else wish to speak on this application? Questions from the public? If not,
Mayor,
yes, sir.
at this point, I think I should state that I will not be voting on this. I have conflict with the interest put on the board.
All right,
Gulfstream Golf Club.
Mr. Lyons is recused.
And Mayor, if I may, just real quick, we had a meeting with the applicant earlier this week, and the subject of the sewer system came up, and we wanted to bring that to your attention because this is going to be a system that exists that is hooked into the Del Rey system. So the question came up as to whether or not the town of Gulfstream wanted to take responsibility for that, or if we wanted to ask Del Rey to take responsibility for that. It was our understanding that we would probably ask Del Rey to do that, but we wanted to make sure that the commission was telling us that was what you wanted to do before we went and relayed that to the applicant.
Okay, it's a good point. Does anyone feel the town of Gulfstream should be involved in monitoring, overseeing, and filling the sewage system for this project?
I don't think so. I think Del Rey is perfect.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Very good. Any motion?
Okay, this is an application submitted by Kerry Glickstein of Ironwood Development, and we've got a series of motions, a comp plan, rezoning, text amendment involving approvals with regard to the actual development plan. The first motion is
So do we read through these?
Yeah,
ordinance
first. Yeah, for the text amendments, Ms. Rita will read.
First one is the comp plan amendment, ordinance 21-1, Ms. Taylor.
An ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending the future land use map of the town's adopted comprehensive plan, redesigning 4.154 acres, more or less, in size from P public to SF single family residential, 4.158 acres, more or less, in size from recreation, REC, to P public and 3.489 acres, more or less, in size from recreational to single-family SF residential. Such parcels are located generally east of US Highway 1 and north of the Place au Soleil subdivision. As set forth herein and attached hereto, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date, and this is being presented on second reading and adoption.
Stanley's moved for adoption. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons. Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner White.
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley.
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes.
Second motion, we've got a motion to approve the rezoning from public facilities and OR outdoor recreational to single-family residential, Plaza au Soleil, and fee public facilities. This is ordinance 21-2. Ms. Taylor?
An ordinance of Town Commission, Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending the town's zoning map to rezone 4.154 acres more or less in size from P Public Facilities District to residential single-family Place au Soleil District, 4.158 acres more or less in size from or outdoor recreation district to P Public Facilities District, and 3.489 acres more or less in size from or outdoor recreational district to RSP Residential Single Family Place au Soleil District. Such parcels are located generally east of US Highway 1 and north of the Place au Soleil subdivision, as set forth herein and attached hereto, providing for severability, providing for the repeal of ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date, and this is also on second reading and adoption.
Mr. Stanley has moved for adoption. Is there a second?
Second. Go ahead.
Within 2 seconds. Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein? Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
Third motion is a text amendment for the single-family residential Plaza au Soleil regulations to allow for a 10-foot rear setback for pools in Plaza au Soleil addition number 2, as Mr. Cooley stated before. This is ordinance number 21-3.
An ordinance of the Town Commission, Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending the Town Code of Ordinances at Chapter 70, Gulfstream Design Manual, Article 4, Site Development Regulations, Section 70-74, setbacks to provide for a reduced rear setback for pools applicable to some homes in Place au Soleil, addition number 2, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, providing an effective date, presented on second reading for adoption.
Mr. Stanley has moved for adoption. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein? Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
We have the motion for the site plan and the actual subdivision approval. This is a motion for a level 3 site plan subdivision approval for a 14-lot subdivision on 7.64 acres.
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein? Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
Next motion is concurrency certification to confirm municipal services are available for the proposed 14 units. Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
Item F, development agreement. This is a motion for approval of development agreement between Blue Water Cove, Gulfstream LLC, and the town of Gulfstream.
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes.
Last motion is motion to approve the land clearing permit pending approval of a tree disposition plan submitted to the town manager.
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's move on to town manager's report. Utility underground.
Well, the good news is that we are AT&T has completed their, wrecking, as they say. And all that's left on that is, a short, period of time that, myself and Mr. Brandon will go out. We identified, 5, 6, or 7, issues on a previous walkthrough with Mr. Brandon, and per our, agreement, Mr. Brandon is supposed to sign off on anything that we found that still needed to be, accomplished by AT&T, and so we're ready to do that. It's just getting Mr. Brandon out here so he can write the letter. So basically, AT&T is done, and also, as I've mentioned to Comcast today, FP&L is gearing up to, take the poles down. I won't read you this email that I got from Mr. Weiss, but basically he's approached Brett Druin, who is in charge of all the DOT permits. The placement of the new lights, we've already identified where the new street lights on A1A will be located. The only question is if the FP&L can use the existing undergrounding permit that they had before. And I think Brett Druin does work with us. He's pretty flexible, so we're just waiting on Mr. Druin to give the sign off that they can work under that same permit. So again, they're gearing up to take the poles down whenever Comcast is out of here. I was told, I believe that process would take maybe a couple of weeks by FP&L.
You may have a problem with the scheduling of that in view of what was told us today?
No, I mean, I'm gonna have to get on the horn with Mr. Weiss, and it's just a matter of, I mean, they need probably 6 weeks of, I'm sorry? Yeah, lead time, to prepare for it, so they're just gonna have to, reschedule. So.
Okay. And you've been maintaining contact with Comcast, on a very regular basis, probably more than once a week.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just incredible. The people that wear the suits, I literally 3 weeks ago was told that by his supervisor, a supervisor of maintenance, that they were done wrecking their services. And I walked out and took pictures of all their services that are still hanging up here, and I sent them an email and said, well, what is this? And so I've never really experienced the mixed messages that I've been getting. And the people that are on the ground in the boots really are the ones that have the knowledge. I did not know that they still had 2 or 3 months worth of work out here to do, because I really feel like what they're doing is not what they said they were going to do. As you all know, they sent out the letter to our residents, gave them 30 days, and said after that, okay, we're switching over, and you're going to be out of luck. But that's not what they're doing. What they're doing is, as he described today, they're searching out these people before they turn over.
They're not going to do that after today. So hopefully
we'll see.
We'll see. Okay. Any questions? We've kind of flogged this horse. Australian pines.
Yes. So, as you know, we have this, we have a tree inventory of all of our 754 Australian pines. And in the past, the town had a contract with an individual, Rita can probably remember his name. I think
Wade Hoyt.
That once a year would really do a drive down A1A, and from the window, look at the condition of the trees and make some recommendations on maintenance of these trees and what we should do. So This is a more, advanced type of, inventory of the trees. It provides us an overall risk rating for them, their condition, defects that they've identified on these trees. And so what we're going to do is begin an annual, maintenance with Barton to come out and update this, for us, so that we can, keep, this treasure, alive and well here in Gulfstream. Also part of that maintenance program, the staff is recommending that the town create an Australian pine tree farm to produce new trees that will be needed to replace the trees that are recommended to be taken out. And so we'll be using Barton with our continuing contract with them to help us initially start this tree farm and advise us on the best practices of starting a tree farm and then maintaining the tree farm as the trees grow. So I've already got some ideas or recommendations that I had no clue how to raise Australian pines, but there is an art to it. And so this is just a kind of a for your information. This is what the staff would like to do. In order to keep our maintenance program going on the Australian pines.
Is that something we can engage Bartlett to take care of rather than having Rita out there watering?
Yeah. They're going to start at this.
Well, let me tell you,
Still got a few.
Rita did it. I mean, it's been years.
Yeah, she
but
did.
Rita has a few. I mean.
We won't give away any secrets here, but Rita has, brought some to us, but actually, our two public works people, we've got some growing as we speak back here behind Town Hall. So I think for now, one of our employees owns his own landscape maintenance company, and so he's very familiar also with Australian pines and the best way to grow these things. So I think we'll start out with them. See how it goes. I think we can do that with our own people, or our own folks. Let me just, see how that goes for a while.
I think we would all be in agreement that this needs to be done.
Yeah, I definitely think
Oh,
it needs to be done.
This
Because some of those are getting so old, it needs to be replenished.
They are, they get to the point where they do have issues with their root structures, or they may have, the trunks have been hit or something, and so there are, eventually some of these trees actually, because of their location, may need to be taken out. So we don't want to take out too many trees without being able to replace them.
I think transplanting the trees would seem to be a problem. So maybe if we need to employ anyone to get them ready to be transplanted, is that right, Rita?
Yeah, well, it's not so bad. It's after they're put in the ground out here is keeping the people from destroying them. Maybe some people that live by them don't want them, and and you got this little tree out there, so you got to have some cooperation.
And Barton has advised us really for the best practice for raising these is actually raising them from a seed. That would be much better than from like a startup tree that volunteer. Yeah, volunteer that's coming up. They would last much longer, and and he said there's plenty of seeds out here. I don't know what one of the seeds looks like. I've probably stepped on them all, many times, but so that's where they're going to help us initially, identify where we can locate these.
I think it's a great plan. Good. I mean, it's too important to the history of this town.
And it is something that we need to do now. He indicated that they would need to be about 3 years old before you actually plant them, because otherwise someone might spray them with Roundup, or a weed whacker might come by, they might just get pulled out. And it takes about 3 years for them to get, shoulder, 6 feet tall. And at that point, he felt like they would be.
That's the best time to plant them.
So are we talking about still having 15 specimen trees back here, or are we talking about having them do it off-site at the field nursery?
This is not something that we've talked about. I mean, we have seven little baby saplings in pots next to the building right now.
My understanding is that we actually used to have a tree farm back here that was actually irrigated. And, over the years, big contractors would, park back here and,
Yeah,
so, I mean, you may be familiar with
I think the landscape people used to park back there, but I think we should use it for our own.
yeah, sure.
I mean, it's just a cut.
I mean, there's
Little
no,
cost.
yeah, so, I believe we have enough room back there if we, the only time that whole area's been used is when we had F&C and let them mobilize from there, and they used the entire site, but, I think at least half of that.
Well, we've got, I'm not gonna belabor this too much here, like 30 seconds here, but you've got, our water mains for the south and the north mobilizing, so you think we should take these things off site for the next 7 years, because we're probably gonna need, 50 trees?
Well, it's gonna be 3 years before we have a tree to put in. They're already proposing 13 to be removed, right?
Yes. And we've got the water main people, they got a stage back here the next 6 years.
Well, they're gonna be in pots, you can relocate pots, I guess to start now, just.
Yeah, I mean, they started in pots,
Yeah, the 5 gallon pot.
Yeah, so maybe we can adapt, but Anthony's very experienced at this sort of thing.
absolutely. But that's something that we're going to, discuss with Barton and use them as our, to counsel us on.
Okay, all right, good, thank you.
But it's a very good point.
Yeah, it is a good point that we're using space that we've already designated for contractors to utilize, so it's a bit of a conflict. But we will adapt. Now, let's move on to gatehouses.
Okay, the reason we had this on here, we've gotten some, comments from the public about, gatehouses and how close they are to the, to the edge of the paving of A1A. I think the one that's most noticeable is the new house that's being built at 2929, which is at the intersection of Gulfview Drive. I mean, when you pull up to the intersection, it's right there in front of you, and there's already an existing gatehouse on the older house just to the south of it. And so, we, just wanted to, introduce this subject to the commission. If you've ever given any thought to it, want us to do any, research on it, or are comfortable with, the codes as they read now and the setbacks that they, it provides for structures like these gatehouses.
So it is a special exception use. It's permitted only in the beachfront district. They have a 10-foot setback from A1A, so that is fairly close, but they are limited in size. They have to be detached, cannot exceed 500 square feet, can exceed 1 story or 18 feet in height. Doors shall not face A1A, so there's a lot of aesthetic regulations in that special exception criteria, but the question is, maybe should they be further away from the road or changed in some way? So that's why we wanted to bring this to your attention based on what the manager said relative to comments about the new gatehouses that went up at 2929 and also 3565 across from the school.
So they're they're basically on the property line.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're integrated sometimes into the wall. The problem is if you set them back further, then every large, ocean luxury home's gonna have some sort of wall, presumably. So it's gonna be more this landscape in the front or in the back, but then it's gonna jog in. It does help with stacking, but then is it aesthetically, when you look down the street, how does that affect it if you have these larger entryways?
We debated this when these applications came in, and I remember we were persuaded that, it's permitted and it would be fine, but it's really not fine. It doesn't look good. And the more you get, these are not the gatehouse houses anymore. They're guest houses, and they fill them up. I think we should not permit them. I would do away with them altogether, because I agree with Tom. To require further setback, it's just going to create a jogging effect in the wall. That's going to look out of place. Anyways, that's just my personal thing.
So the gatehouse element would need to be, with our consultant, that would need to be changed where, I mean, if you don't totally eliminate it, I mean, if you want something very linear, which I think is where the group is headed, or if we just review the gate code, which I think is fine on its own. I don't know if we want any kind of architectural element for a gate. You drive in, have a nice driveway apron, and then there's your house. So it would be, I guess it would be what, the project would be explore eliminating them from the code.
What was the, Joan, I know you've commented in the past on this, at least I believe you have. What was the history of these? I mean, I don't quite understand the reason for the provision, because before we eliminate it, I just kind of like to understand why it was there in the first place.
You know, I can't tell you really. I mean, I really don't know, but I do think that, are they being used as guest houses?
I think originally they were for staff, to
Sure.
monitor the property.
Yeah,
But
well,
back going with that.
And-
So the ones that, the homes on A1A, Ocean, you know, they are right there, purpose probably, but that tends to different.
Well, I don't see any compelling reason to allow this exception, unless there's some rationale that I just don't know about.
how many gatehouses are there? You just see, when you have new construction, you see it so much more. Once they're landscaped, they kind of disappear a little bit more. So I understand that all of a sudden you see these houses, it's a whole new item. But how many do we have?
We just have to do an inventory.
Joan, that developer, did the house on Gulfview.
Oh, yeah.
And then the one further
Right.
north, and he also put in one there, did he not?
Oh, yeah,
Correct.
there's gatehouse on both properties.
And I think they're just trying to get more.
Right. The exception to the code allows you to build living
Yeah.
space right on the property line.
But I just asked how many we had in town before he did that. I don't know.
Well, so the other thing here is we seem to be getting a lot of pressure for accessory structures. And Rita is back to answering a lot of questions about pool houses, accessory structures. You know, you can add on, but it's got to be attached to your home. It seems that this kind of seems to be, you know, a function of what's going on with building and a function of what's going on with all these families that were in together the last year and a half.
They want more
So, well, why don't we do a survey of the existing, gatehouses, guest houses, and then maybe give us a little snapshot of the code for accessory structures again, even though I know it's in the book. And then it looks like we're angling for a staff recommendation to eliminate the special exception going forward.
I can't remember a gatehouse except on the Spearville property, that 1920 house up there. Can you?
Yeah, there are a few.
There are a few?
And I can't really remember right off the cuff here, it's been a long year, but, I don't even know what are the floor plans of these things, especially for newer structures?
They are designed for residential habitation, that's actually a requirement, so they would have like a bathroom and shower, and I think we were looking at plans that did have like a small kitchen area as well.
So, yeah, I mean, if you're eliminating one accessory structure on the beachfront district, then do we need a provision to provide, as long as we're not compromising setbacks and FAR, not to provide for the accessory structure to be located somewhere else?
They can already do that.
So we're good there.
They can have a guest house,
Yeah.
a little guest house.
I'm talking detached.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is just an additional.
What's in the back?
It's an add-on.
Okay. Okay. So,
We'll
the
survey.
consensus is to look into this and maybe report back next.
Okay.
Very good, thank you.
The next item is, we just wanted to report to you that the town is going to, extend our disaster removal contract for the second year as a 1-year extension. We have 3 1-year extensions with our existing contract. We're just gonna exercise that, this will be our second 1-year extension. Just wanted to give you notice about that. The prices are all the same, so there's nothing we really need, from you about that. And then finally, we do this every year. The Palm Beach County Criminal Justice Commission requires approval from the towns and cities as to how to spend money that is received by them from the federal government through the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program, and how they disperse that money that they receive from the Fed. They have the two programs that they provide money to. I could read them to you, but the programs that we approved last year are the same as this year. They just require the towns and cities to approve this, and the mayor will be signing a letter if you would approve that. I do need a vote on that.
You do. All right. Is there a motion regarding the Justice Assistance Grant Fund?
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Dunham. ARPB meeting will be June 3rd at 8:30 a.m. This is kind of a joinder of meetings. There will not be a May meeting, nor will there be a late June meeting. So the two will be combined on June 3rd at 8:30 a.m. for anyone who wishes to attend. Finance report, Mr. Dunham.
Yes, the report that you have, there's nothing outstanding that I found in it. This represents 7 months of our budget. I would like for CFO Rebecca to make a few comments about this report for this month.
Rebecca?
As you may have noticed in my highlight summary at the beginning of the financial report, these particular financials are not necessarily completed. I wasn't able to reconcile the payroll nor the operating account because we have started utilizing an outsourced payroll service called Paycor, and they are still building our general ledger integration module. We should be able to do a test pilot of one of the existing payrolls that we've done in April next week, but that was the last update that I got yesterday from the programmer. So as soon as I get those, primarily the financials are going to be only impacted in things that are related to payroll directly, such as FICA taxes, salary expenses, etc. So the rest of the financials are a good representation of where we currently are.
Very good. Any questions? If not, let's move on to Chief. Police report.
I request that the activity report be accepted as submitted. We finally have one job applicant we feel real strong about, and he should be able to come on board within 2 to 3 weeks. Finishing up his background now.
Oh, very good. That's great. It's good to hear. Any questions for the chief? If not, we'll accept his report as submitted. Let's move on to ordinance 21/4. First reading, Mrs. Taylor.
An ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending the town code of ordinances at Chapter 66 zoning, Article 6 district regulations, Division 4 OR outdoor recreational district, Section 66-254 spatial exceptions, to provide for a spatial exception for reverse osmosis water plants associated with a golf course, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict, providing for codification, and providing an effective date. This is presented on first reading.
Are there any questions from the commission on this ordinance? If not, ordinance 21/4 has been presented to us for approval on first reading. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I'm going to recuse myself.
Again, okay.
Mr.
Lyons is recused.
Move to approve ordinance 21/4.
Second, Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. We have an agreement for special magistrate services. Mr. Nazaro or Mr. Hunt?
Yes, we just need to hire a special magistrate, in the event that we have any code enforcement issues. I think we're We're doing pretty well so far. We've got general compliance, but this is just to make sure that we have someone available if needed.
All right, is there a motion to approve that agreement?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Mrs. Taylor?
Commissioner White? Yes. Commissioner Orthwyne?
Yes.
Commissioner Lyons?
Sorry, that was on
That was on the special magistrate agreement.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. We have an application for alternate member on the ARPB, Rob Canfield from Fossil Select. Discussions, comments?
I just want to make sure they can attend the meeting. That's my only comment.
Good for you.
Well, I think it's, you have to be responsible when people want to come through, that there are dates that the architecture review board can meet. I mean, it's just responsibility of the town.
I absolutely agree with that. Because, you know, apparently we had to cancel the meeting.
Yeah.
Right?
These people, it costs a lot of money to try to come through here, and they're spending a lot of money to this town. And I think it's our responsibility to make sure we have these meetings.
Yes.
And actually, the staff has met this gentleman, albeit one time when he came in to review the, Mr. Wickstein's, development. I felt good about him. He wasn't pretentious or anything like that, and asked some really good questions. You were in the meeting too, so, you know, from one meeting, I felt like that he was committed and loves living there in Place Au Soleil, and it's not really doing this for some kind of personal mission.
It's good qualifications.
I know about Canfield.
Do you?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We should have.
Yeah, she's a neighbor.
Oh, okay.
Okay, Rob's a good guy. He's on the homeowners, the board of homeowners. He's taken on some more responsibility there. I think since, the shift because of the landscape person that he had. His wife moved here from California a few years ago. They're very, very particular about caring for their home.
Right.
He's always out mowing his lawn and I think they're outstanding people.
Okay. Do you recommend him?
I do.
All right, very good.
And he's going to be here.
Gotta be here.
He works from home.
No, I don't care about that. I just don't want him traveling back to California when you meet it.
He's been here for.
No.
I mean, he works out, he does work from home most of the time, but then I guess he travels some, he's some kind of a manager, like district manager or something for Rainbow.
Okay.
No, fine.
I mean, let's bring him on board. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve Mr. Canfield as an alternate on the ARPB.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwyne?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Next, we have an interlocal agreement regarding municipal solid waste. Mr. Don?
Yes, so we currently are in an interlocal agreement with the Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County for the delivery of our municipal solid waste. But they have made some amendments to their agreement with the town and city. And so they're asking us to either agree with them or not. But basically the changes, what this does is it requires that our waste haulers use the recycle trucks. You've seen them where they're kind of two-sided and they just dump them in separate containers on the truck. So they're not commingling, throwing them both in the same, whether it's plastic or paper. Now on the truck, they can do that. I mean,
that's how we do it now, right?
You know what, I'm not sure, because I'm not here on Saturday when they pick up the.
No, they are, they do.
Okay, so we already do
Sometimes
that.
they throw it all in one truck too.
Well, they're not supposed to do that. So, but anyway, so what they were saying is if town and city didn't have that that when they renewed their contracts with their waste haulers, they would be required to have these types of trucks. So you know better than me whether they have those trucks or not.
I mean, that's why we have two separate bins. I've seen them.
Right.
Put them in different
Right.
spots. Maybe they
So,
don't always do it.
So some places apparently don't have that.
Not always. Yeah, sometimes. not.
Yeah, and the other part of it is the Solid Waste Authority agrees to continue the revenue sharing, like they do now with the towns and cities.
Are you recommending we approve this?
Yes.
Yes, very good. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the, solid waste authority agreement.
Second?
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein? Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Now we have the electronic smart meters. Mr. Mazzaro, or?
Thank you, Mayor. Presented for your approval is the procurement of electronic smart meters, which would be replacing all of the water meters in town. At this point, we are asking to purchase the meters, which we're doing directly through the distributor as a sole source based on conversations that we've had with our engineers and publicly posting our sole source as suggested by Florida statute. The pricing for the meter complete replacement comes to $268,673. $268,673.74. That includes all the meters in town. There is a $5,000 annual subscription. There is also a one-time fee for equipment to read the radio signals that communicates with meters, and then a one-time fee for software integration into the town's utility billing software, and also a one-time $2,500 payment for on-site training for those meters once they're installed. Separately, we are procuring services to install the meters. We're not going to do that by ourselves. It would take too much time for our water maintenance people to do that all throughout the entire town. And also the installation of some plastic meter boxes, because there are a number of meter boxes that we leave in place off the lane. They're either concrete or fiberglass, and we would have issues with the radio signal. So we're replacing approximately 180 of those. Those we will bring to you next month, the procurement of the meter boxes and the installation services. I've been working with Anthony on this. We've received some quotes from 3 different meter box companies, as well as we've been in communication with a water meter and meter box installation company that does that kind of work. They have piggyback contracts that we can utilize. We're just finalizing those details, and we'll bring those to you next month. The reason that we're asking that we purchase the water meters now is the water meter manufacturer stops for like a month over the summer. So if we get our order in now, we won't have to wait until maybe the fall to receive them. So this is just so we can make sure that we can do all of this work when it's going to impact the residents at least over the summer.
Very good. Any questions?
And Trey, a quick observation. It's $268 before tax, and then you throw on another.
Yes, that's right. We're tax exempt, so they indicated there was a tax which would have brought us to $285. We don't. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I didn't know that.
Motion to approve, purchasing the water meters for $268,673.74 on state meter supply.
Second?
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
And Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Next and last item, legal services payment, Schraber, Glenn, Dow, and Case. Mr. Mazzaro?
Thank you, Mayor. Bob Sweetapple is asking that the town pay his attorney's fees for his defense in a sanctions action stemming from the town's public records litigation. The case asset enhancement versus the town of Gulfstream, case number 2014 CA 010216, was set for final closing argument after a number of attempts by the plaintiff to delay. According to records from Sunbiz, asset enhancement, the president of asset enhancement is Martin Boyle, and the vice president is William Ring. The night before the final closing argument, the plaintiff filed a suggestion of bankruptcy in the state court, indicating the entity had filed for bankruptcy in the bankruptcy court. This was seen by the town's lawyers as another attempt to delay the hearing on its claim for fees. Still, we were sensitive to that because when a suggestion of bankruptcy is filed, generally an automatic stay prevents the debtor from pending actions against the debtor. Jones Foster actually researched the issue as to whether the automatic stay applied in these specific circumstances relative to the debtor asking to reclaim fees and serving as the plaintiff. And a hearing was held before the state court judge in which the state court judge, Judge Kastronakis, I believe, determined that the automatic bankruptcy stay did not apply under these specific facts and directed the parties to proceed. Thereafter, the debtor asked an enhancement sought to sanction the town and Bob Sweetapple, who handled the final oral argument for the town in the bankruptcy court proceeding. Bob Sweetapple, as part of his personal defense, separate from the town's defense, retained expert bankruptcy lawyers that contributed to the town's ultimately unsuccessful mutual defense of these sanctions. According to Joanne Connor, Mr. Sweetapple's counsel added a lot of value and helped the town's bankruptcy counsel at Jones Foster to defend the sanctions issue efficiently. The debtor argued that the town and Bob Sweetapple violated the automatic stay by arguing that any fee award under the Public Records Act should be reduced or disallowed as part of the sanction. The debtor argued that in doing so, the town and its counsel were arguing for affirmative relief. Evidentiary hearings were held in the bankruptcy court. Ultimately, the bankruptcy court found that, in fact, automatic bankruptcy stay was violated, even though we had a different opinion from the state court judge who told us to proceed with the argument, and awarded the debtor fees against the town and Sweetapple for the filing and prosecution of that sanctions motion. Mr. Sweetapple's personal attorneys from the firm of Scheiberg, Landau, and Page, the attorney's fees were $43,000, but that figure was reduced as a courtesy to Mr. Sweetapple, and Mr. Sweetapple is asking the town to pay the reduced fee of $21,569.73, and a smaller fee to Pankowski Hauser in the amount of $2,100. If that's acceptable to the town, I would need a motion to pay the attorney's fees as I stated on the record.
It's a particularly outrageous situation where the state court judge directed Mr. Sweetapple to conclude the case and make a closing argument, which he did. The plaintiffs then took that event to a bankruptcy judge to argue that it was a violation of federal law on automatic stays, not to get too deep in the weeds. But Sweetapple had no choice but to make his argument. He was directed to by the state court judge. The bankruptcy court judge then sanctioned him for that. So it seems to me that that was a responsibility of the towns. We hired him, we put him in a situation to defend us. He did so to the best of his ability. And if there is a consequence to that, it seems to me that's the town's responsibility, not Mr. Sweetapple's. Any comments, questions?
Well, this is just the old thing where you've got, generally speaking, you've got layers upon layers of claims and counterclaims and delay. Ultimately, it's the town's responsibility to defend its residents, and this is just part of the myriad of issues and fees and costs that we set a policy to uphold and do to protect the town, which, started 5 or 6 years ago, so definitely improved payment fees.
I have no problem with it.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve the fees payable to the two law firms on behalf of Mr. Sweetapple as presented by Mr. Nazaro.
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwine? Yes. Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
And Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Any other comments by the commission? If not, thank you very much. Long meeting. Thank you. We were talking about it last night.
So, I'm sorry.
Yeah. A lot of stuff is small.
We got a lot of stuff to sign.
Yeah. Hey, Paul. Paul, we got some signatures required.
You need the revenue. The whole trip is booming, we need the revenue. Thank you.
Mayor, why are you